much
Oh,
for
you're welcome.
that
Yeah,
glorious
you're welcome.
and very truthful introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you for glasses as well. That's brilliant. Great. Thank you very much. Hi to everyone in the room. That's so amazing that so many people are here. Hi to the people at home. If that's the camera, hi. If that's the camera. I'm just going to do a bit of stagecraft here while I just move the furniture around. But nice to see you all. Great to have you here with us. So Rich kind of set it out at the top there in terms of we're starting to see the makeup of the advice sector and kind of where like roles are. So maybe we see kind of admin and power planners as kind of at the younger age. We see financial planners and practitioners maybe more at the more established end of the scale. But in this session, we kind of want to really get into how do we bring that new wave of talent through, actually. So we've got two amazingly capable women here who are going to talk about that, and from very different perspectives, actually. So we've got G. Foottit, who is a senior manager at SJP's Financial Advisor Academy. And I'm going to chat to G a little bit first about how a big brand like SJP brings people into advice. And then I'm going to have a chat with Laura, who is Operations Director at Cairn Independent. And she's going to talk a very kind of personal from the heart story about how her route into advice kind of differed from the kind of academy route that G is talking about. So that's the kind of scene setter stuff. So G, if I start with you first. So SJP, people in this room will kind of have instinctive reactions when I say SJP, but I think there are probably lessons a little bit in terms of how you bring people into a sector when actually they don't know that advice exists as a sector. They don't know financial planning as a career. So I know that you've got a few sort of channels and levers that you pull, podcasts and various different ways of reaching out to people. So maybe you could kind of just talk me through how does SJP bring people through the door when they don't know there's a door to go through, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do lots of things, as you said, but one of the key things that we actually do is get referrals from our own people, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. But recruitment events, we have various different marketing strategies, storytelling through podcast videos, very much use of social media, PR campaigns. We recently commissioned some independent research for a PR campaign in conjunction with Indeed, the UK's largest hiring platform. And we did the research on over 4,000 UK workers. And actually, interestingly, those who were in Scotland, 41% of them said they would actively look for a new career in the next 12 months. So whilst there are people actively looking for a new career, as you say, they may not know about financial advice. So of those people, their current salaries were around 35,500. Their desired salaries were 43,500. And actually, when we put together the makeup of what a dream job was across the whole of the UK, people were looking for earnings of above 50,000. Now, I hope all of us in this room will agree that 50,000 is very much achievable in financial advice. So that's great. There are people actively looking for a career change. They're actually looking for something that pays them well. But what else are they looking for? They're looking for things like a healthy work-life balance, flexibility, the ability to work from anywhere, and most importantly, meaningful work. Now, all of those are achievable in financial advice. So I think as a profession, we need to be better at packaging up some of those things and reaching those people who are already looking for a career change for one reason or another. But 60% of the people that come through our academy actually have no financial services experience at all. So they will have heard or seen us in one of those marketing outlets. We've got capacity to train up to 600 people each year. For us, it is very much the quality over the numbers, but many of those people, as I say, do come from referrals in the business. So if you think of the SJP ecosystem, there's 2,000 employees, there's just under 5,000 financial advisors, 6,000 PSS staff. So there's lots of people we can go to say, do you know anyone that you think will be good at this? And because they're already part of the community, like everybody here, they already can recognise attributes in somebody, whether they're in financial services or not, that think, yeah, actually, I could see this person giving advice. So we really tap into that. But other things we do is partner with organisations which give us access to people who are already looking for a career change for one reason or another. So obvious ones that we, well-trodden path with us are ex-professional sports people, people leaving the military, and career returners. So those are three obvious ones, but there are many other sort of sectors and backgrounds that we have people join us from. But if you're a smaller firm and partnering commercially with a business to find and attract talent, isn't really something you need or want to do. You're only looking to recruit one or two people. You can think outside the box. You could promote your business in local communities, in sports arena, for example. And yeah, as you said, people don't necessarily know about the role. So yeah, it's putting the information in front of them.
I think it's quite interesting because you are managing to capture people at the point when they're thinking about changing career, and that's when you want to be planting the seed, I guess. But I think what's also, I'm probably one of the people that's kind of had a go at SJP in my time, but like I think what's quite nice about what the Academy does is you're telling stories, aren't you, essentially? You're not kind of going in there with a direct come and work for SJP. It's a very softly approach in terms of this is how somebody transformed their career. This is somebody's journey, to use an Oprah word. But it's very much about the people that you're bringing in as a kind of softer sell, almost, would you say?
Absolutely. We want the people to see themselves in our people. With 60% of people having no financial services backgrounds, as I say, there's lots of different sectors. And I'm sitting next to Laura, who comes from a sports background, so we'll use that as an example. So yeah, if we interview people from the sports sector and then we place those stories in front of people who are currently in sports helpful for, it's sorry to say anything so helpful for us, but people tend to retire young from sports, so they do need a second career. So it's an obvious place for us to then encourage them to be doing exams while they're still playing sport, and then they're much more ready to change career later. So that's a method of recruitment that we have.
Okay, great. And so when we kind of talk about that pipeline of talent, who's going to serve the next generation of clients, we tend to talk about I think that maybe there's a sense that they would be younger people and we would kind of train them up. But actually, from your guys' perspective, it's kind of a bit different in that maybe that next generation isn't necessarily, school leavers. It's people on their second or third career who the client that they're sat across from can relate to.
Absolutely. I think the Academy's evolved over 12 plus years, and initially people only had the choice to start their own business when they came through the training. Today, we are recruiting at a much larger scale, and about 35% of those people are starting a business. The rest are joining existing practice at SJP as an advisor. So that gives people sort of scope and choice. And I think that enables us to recruit maybe that younger generation because they're starting sometimes in other people's businesses before launching their own. And I think the real purpose behind the Academy initially was we need to replace the retiring advisors. We saw the average age of the profession, SJP was no different. Over the last 12 years, we've actually managed to bring the average age within the partnership down from 57, like the rest of the country, to 46. The average age of people training in the Academy is 33. But when you think of that number, it's actually just the middle age of working people. So now we're able to welcome people in their early 20s. We're actually able to welcome people in their late 50s. And our criteria for them, or our question to them, would be, do you want to work for another sort of 10 years? And if the answer is yes, there's no upper limit. So yeah, it's great that we can have that diversity.
And how much of a driver is that? Because I'm guessing when we kind of think about, the provider world of old and kind of people who kind of came through advice, and then advice kind of got this reputation of sort of being a certain way, maybe the whole male, pale and stale kind of thing. So how important is the diversity piece to the people that you're bringing through?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a bit of a hangover from the past of what a financial advisor looks like. I actually did study myself, finished my MBA, so my post on LinkedIn, thank you. And part of my study for my dissertation was I had the opportunity to ask some university-age people, describe what a financial advisor looks like. And some of them did stay. They're wearing a suit, they're sort of middle-aged, and I can see them in a suit in Canary Wharf, and that was their image. Sorry to talk about London when we're here in Scotland, but we were in London at the time. So I think it is a bit of a hangover from the past there. And I think the way that we can change that is, as you say, storytelling, showcasing different people coming in and saying that you don't need to wear a suit to be a financial advisor anymore. In some circumstances, it's the right thing to do, but not always.
And what do kind of people say to you about like kind of having gone through this process, so going from perhaps zero financial services experience to a place where they can sit, in front of a client and knowledgeably deal with that person? What's the kind of feedback that you've had around some of the people that have kind of gone through this process?
In terms of differentiating in age, or
no, just in terms of what it's done for them, I guess, maybe given them an opportunity that they might not have had before.
Yeah, there's definitely social mobility in this profession, and that's something I don't think we shout about enough. So from an SJP perspective, there isn't a degree required to come through. As long as you can get through the RO exams, it's open to anybody. And so we do have people with from lots of different backgrounds, and I think the training that we put people through is very much structured. It's qualifications first, then it's very much skills, then you're out seeing clients under supervision with somebody who's FCA registered. And I think that process of holding somebody's hand and being extremely highly supportive of them enables them to, make mistakes sometimes. There's somebody always there to pick up the pieces. I think you learn much quicker by either observing somebody doing the job or doing it yourself. So.
And I think, sorry to kind of go behind the fourth wall or whatever it is, but when we were kind of having our briefing conversation, I know you kind of relayed quite a nice story about some very specific feedback that a lady gave you about kind of this process, I guess.
Yeah, well, I've got some interesting stats actually about gender diversity here in Scotland. So of all the UK registered financial advisors, 5% of them are here in Scotland. 25% of those are aligned with SJP. But actually, 23% of those advisors are women, and that's against the whole of the UK, just 16%. So I think we can all learn from everybody here in this room what you're doing really, really well. Our academy is at around graduating 27% females, partnerships now 20% as a result of that versus the UK 17. And I'm really passionate about bringing more women into the profession. Something that I do in my day job often is put on female-only events. Now, again, some of the businesses in the room might be smaller. You don't need to run an event to recruit, a number of people. You're just recruiting one. But there are still small things that you can do. You can make sure your imagery, your language is gender neutral. You can make sure that there's somebody from within the business who's there, who's championing you through the process, who's a woman, who's an inspiring story that we're going to hear from Laura later. But one of the women that we interviewed for International Women's Day a year or so ago said that coming along to one of those female-only events removed one barrier, one hurdle for her. And actually at the time, she didn't think it was there, it didn't exist. But being at the event that was full of females, she felt much more comfortable, less imposter syndrome, more confident to ask questions, but most importantly, more confident to follow up with somebody that she'd met that day. So it just goes to show that I think having an open door and creating those environments where people feel comfortable is really important, whether that's gender or anything else.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, G, thank you for that. That kind of maybe gives people some little nuggets of things that they might be able to do within their own kind of firms to kind of attract different people. Laura, I kind of wanted to kind of chat to you now. So you didn't come through an academy, nothing like that. And when we were writing like speaker bios and things, Laura has a great one because it's like from martial arts to financial services. And I don't think that's a path that's like super well trodden. So perhaps you could kind of just share a little bit of your own story about your own entry into advice, first of all.
Sure. So I think I would start by saying that I don't ever hide who I am or where I've been. That being said, this is the first time that I'll talk about it so openly in front of a lot of people. So please bear with me. You're not here for now. But I certainly didn't get into financial services because it was all I ever wanted to do. It was quite the reverse. And when I was about 24, I got given a chance by Cairn. And I think to really understand what that chance meant to me, and also the risk that Cairn took at the time in giving me that chance, I think I need to take you right the way back so that you can understand more about where I've been. So to do that, we do need to go quite far back. But I would say that there was a significant turning point in my childhood where life got very dark very quickly for me. I was sexually abused, and as a result of that, as a child, I didn't know how to even begin to process or deal with the things that happened. And so I went down a very self-destructive road. I made a lot of bad life choices. And following on from that, school didn't go very well for me because of these reasons. I was bullied, and I basically did everything that I could to kind of break the rules at the time, not intentionally, but just because of the route that I was going down at the time. So when I was 15, the school had said that there was nothing more that they could do for me, and they asked me to leave.
Wow.
So to be clear, that is private school for kicked out. So at 15, I found myself with no education, no direction. And at that point, I'd be lying if I said I cared, because I didn't. And so when I was 16, I decided to do the only thing that I knew how to do, which was teach martial arts, something that I'd done since I was 4. But I continued to run 100 miles an hour in completely the wrong direction. And I successfully managed to shut out everybody. My family, I ran away, I was self-harming, I was on a lot of medication. I just really wasn't in a great space at all. And I think it's important to note that my parents did everything that they could to help me throughout this whole period, but I wasn't in a position where I wanted to be helped. I didn't want to acknowledge anything. I didn't want to be honest about what had happened. So there was no helping me at the time. And so I continued down that route for many years. And when I reached about 22, I got so tired of running, and I got so tired of being afraid all the time. And I started to realize at this point that although I couldn't control what happened to me, I could control where I went from there. And so I found myself, after all those years, back at Mum and Dad's doorstep, chapping on the door, and saying to them, I get it now, I need to help me, but I can't do it without your support. And they were absolutely incredible. They took me back in, and together we really started to rebuild my life that was so broken in so many ways. And as time passed, when I was about 24, jumping back to Cairn, there was a woman that worked part-time at Cairn doing the remuneration processing, and that's when I got given my chance by them. So I started at Cairn part-time doing the remunerations, and I think I'd only been there it must have been only about a month or so. And I found myself asking them and saying to them, I felt like I'd pushed myself physically, I'd pushed myself emotionally to try and get where I was trying to go, but because of what had happened, I never had the opportunity to see what I was capable of on an academic level. And so I asked them if I could study, and I always remember them saying to me, we can give you the opportunity, but what you do with it, that's on you. And so the very next day, I started studying my ROs with the CII, which was great because it was a route I wouldn't have otherwise have had. And so as I started studying, I moved into full-time admin. And at that point, I'd kind of decided that I was going to be an advisor. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go and be an advisor. And that's what I was studying for. So as I achieved my diploma, which was, I'm sure you can appreciate, but it was a massive achievement for me, which was something that I never thought that I would be able to do. So I moved more into a power planning role at that point. And I worked really, really closely with one of the directors at the time, who really did invest so much time in my development. There'd be nights that we'd still be in the office at 10 o'clock at night trying to, work together to, and I think it worked because we both fully committed to it. So that was huge for me. Yeah. But I think ultimately what came out of it was it wasn't where my natural strengths lay, and I knew that if I was to go and pursue being an advisor, I wouldn't be the best at it, if that makes sense, and I didn't want to do something that I wasn't going to be the best at. So what then happened was Cairn was looking for someone to come more into the operational side of things, and I felt at the time that's where my strengths really, really lay. So I applied for it, and fortunately they happened to agree. So I think what's important for me is that Cairn really did give me a safe space to grow, to develop, to fail, which I did quite a few times, but ultimately to succeed. And I think, looking back, there's a massive difference from me between constantly running from a past that haunts you and constantly running towards being better and doing better. And that is an opportunity that Cairn gave me that I'll always be thankful for. And that's a very condensed version.
I don't really know where to start. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you say never say sorry, but I'm so sorry you went through that. And I kind of just want to give you a little boost. So can we just give Laura a round of applause? for you.
It's sad, but it's not sad.
No, but it's just, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think the reason that you wanted to share that to that extent is because you want it to help other people. So I think that kind of gives a sense of actually how meaningful finding advice as a career was for you.
Yeah.
And so now you're kind of in a place where you're in operations. I know the kind of Cairn massive are here in the room, so I'll give them a little wave. And they've kind of had a big role in kind of shaping your career and stuff. But now you're in the position where you're almost doing that for other people. So you're hiring into the team, and presumably, without putting words into your mouth, what Cairn has done for you, you want to maybe pass that forward a little bit. Maybe you can talk about how your entry into advice has now kind of shaped the decisions you're making around recruitment.
Yeah, I think it's definitely impacted how I approach recruitment. Because just because somebody can't do it now doesn't mean that they'll never be able to do it. And I think about myself in that sense, because never ever did I think it would happen. And I think when we're thinking about experience, I think if we're being honest, it's something that everybody wants, but that doesn't mean to say that it's always the right way to go. And for me, I would take somebody's attitude over their ability to walk in and do something any day of the week. And I think the best example that I can give now, this doesn't always go to plan, but this is an example of where it has. But I remember over 4 years ago, we were recruiting for an admin. And did we need experience? Absolutely. And I interviewed quite a lot of people at that time. But in amongst that, I actually interviewed Aaron, who is here today. And if I could say that when I came off the call, because we did it over Teams at the time, and when I came off the call from Aaron, I knew everything that he couldn't do, in terms of the experience side of things.
In the nicest possible way, Aaron.
And of course, I mean that in the nicest possible way. But I came off the call knowing everything that he couldn't do. And I also remember that I just didn't care, because when I came off the call from him, I knew that he was going to achieve what he wanted to achieve. He was so driven. He was passionate. He knew where he wanted to go, which was to become an advisor. He knew that he had a long journey. He knew it would be a hard journey. He knew he would have to work really hard and do the exams. And the feeling that I had when I came off the phone from talking to him was more powerful than, oh, well, he can't come in and he can't do this right away, or he can't do that right away.
That's much better than the perfect candidate necessarily.
For me, every day of the week, yeah. So Aaron came in and started an admin, and he was studying his arrows towards his diploma. And I mean, the guy was just a sponge. He just wanted to learn, and there was nothing that he didn't want to do. And he gave it 100%. So when he got his diploma, he moved into paraplanning, again, where he gave 110% to it. And recently now, he's just transitioned into a trainee financial planner position and is studying towards chartered. So I feel like I don't have any emphasis on experience at all, because one of the great things about the role that I do is that I'm able to give people these chances, and it's the exact same thing that was said to me all those years ago. Here's the opportunity. You've got to make it happen if you want it. And that's exactly what he's done.
Cool. Shout out to Aaron then. Right, so we've got a bit of time for questions. I've got some more that I can ask here. We can get a mic to you. Can you just put up your hand if you have a question for G or for Laura about recruitment? How do you find the next wave of advisors? Oh, you're shy. You've stunned them into silence.
That's good.
That doesn't mean you're off the hook, though. But we have had some comments come through online, which said you're very brave for sharing that.
Oh,
so well
thank
done you. Wave at me, whoever's got the mic. Oh, hi, Phil. Hi.
Yes, thank you, Laura. That was very powerful. Two things, commenting on just what's come out. Been involved in recruitment for a long time, both here and in South Africa. And the two biggest blockages that we experienced all the time was, one, your comment about experience. I absolutely echo and go with that. It's attitude all the time. it's just not possible to recruit 25-year-olds with 15, 20 years financial service experience. That person does not exist. So, yeah. The other difficulty was far more fundamental. I'd like to get G's comment on this, was that I've seen academies and programs go through, get bright, enthusiastic, qualified younger people, go with advisors, and then the advisors being control freaks, which we all are, and we feel that uniquely we're the only people who can possibly help our clients because nobody else is possibly good enough to help our clients. And that transition of client, of rather than the new advisor having to hunt for clients, if you like, in the old days, that transition of clients seems to be where the sticking point is and where most failures that I've seen, I hate to use that word, but that's what I've seen, it happens. And you end up with an experienced advisor who's still got far too many clients and hasn't solved the problem in the first place. So I'd be interested in your comments about how you transition the clients to the younger advisors so the practice can then continue.
Yeah.
G, do you want to take that? Yeah.
There's lots of things at play there, absolutely. And so when people are joining the academy, if they are going to join a practice, there's a lot of work done in making that match a good culture fit. It's the first thing, as well as the geography. And having a sustainable contract is really important as well. So for both sides to really understand what that contract looks like. And for some businesses, there won't be a handover of clients. The advisor might come in, they are self-employed, they are expected to find their own clients, but that will be very clear up front. For those younger advisors, as you say, they actually might need to have a servicing agreement with them, but having the sustainable contract up front that says, we are going to hand over 30 clients, we are going to hold your hand when we do that, and then they're going to be your clients going forwards. So there's a lot of work that's over years. We've been doing this for 12 years, but it's not easy, as you say. You've known those clients for many, many years, so handing them over is sometimes tough. But I think with things like consumer duty coming in, the importance of servicing on a regular basis has never been more important. And so even if you are starting a business under the SJP umbrella, there's opportunity to share clients with existing advisors who maybe do have lots of clients on their books and not enough advisors in the business, but they're maybe too close to retirement to bring another advisor in, for example. So there's servicing that happens across different businesses within SJP, and then ultimately what might happen is that those clients are bought by that person later when the affordability is there. So there's lots of different things that you can do, but I guess that is in an ecosystem, might be a little bit more tricky outside. But I think the most important thing is just the hand holding in the early stages, going to joint meetings together, really making sure everybody's comfortable with the handover.
Great, thank you. Any more questions in the room? Okay, there's one at the back, and then I'll take one from our online audience. We'll just get a mic to you.
It was just a very quick one. I'm a younger advisor. I'm 28. I went through a kind of academy type route, and I worked for SJP for a little while. I think my question really is to how do you retain good quality advisors who are younger? I do feel like, from my experiences, you're maybe not as valued as much, even though everyone in the industry keeps on saying you're trying to bring in new talent and all this stuff. I think there is a bit of scepticism about it. So I suppose I'm wondering how to keep people involved with your own specific company as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there is that sense of once you've got them, how do you keep them? So, I mean, Laura, do you have any kind of take on, I suppose, retention generally, and perhaps making sure there's a path for younger advisors so they do feel valued?
I think in terms of retaining the team that you've got, I mean, the only constant thing is change, and I think people's needs and their wants change, and what they maybe start with you saying that they want doesn't work out as what they want at the end as they go through it. But I think my focus is more on understanding what that looks like for them as we go through the journey, because sometimes we can't. There's always a risk that somebody will leave and go somewhere else. But I think to really focus on what does that person want, is it something that we can work towards or we can give them? And I think I've found that at least if you're honest with the team that you've got, sometimes it might not work out, but you're never surprised. you always kind of know where you stand, which is good from a management point of view, but also from the team's point of view. They know if you're committed to them or not.
Okay, yeah, and I suppose it's that managing expectations on both sides, really. So you're having those regular check-ins. Is this what you expected? If not, why not? How can we adapt? That kind of thing. Great. Hopefully that answers your question. So we had a question come in from Sam, who's watching at home, and they ask whether we should encourage exam boards to offer more apprenticeship-style programs that can be dragged and dropped into smaller businesses to help support training for new advisors, where perhaps they don't have the time or resources to build something themselves. So some sort of template that small firms can use to train people up. I mean, what do you think, G? Do you think the things that you could do could be perhaps templated and adapted to a smaller practice?
I think there are sort of all sorts of different routes now popping up. So different academies, different ways of training, and a few more independent ideas are starting to surface. We use Red Mill Advance. People can sign up to Red Mill Advance, outside of SJP. So, I think it's a really interesting concept. So we'll see what happens.
And is that how you do it? Do you do kind of apprenticeships, or is it more that you're hiring people in and then you're sort of training them for the longer term?
Training for the longer term, yeah. We would rather have, what we would like is somebody to come in and have the journey with us. So, like referring back to Aaron, Aaron's in a really strong position in the firm now because he understands, like me, how to do everybody's role. He understands how it works. So, I think for me, I have a strong preference for, come in and learn all of the business and then move where we're going to move from there.
Okay, perfect. That is all we've got time for this session. I'm sure there's loads we could dig into there, but please give huge thanks to G and to Laura.